Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I congratulate the Honourable Member for Bradford South for securing today's debate. And I also want to congratulate my honourable friend for Waveney too. Together, they have acted like a veritable tag team, getting debate after debate. This one, as we've heard today, has been the third. So this issue, obviously, isn't getting better, and it isn't going away. And from what we've heard from MPs today, it's becoming a bigger issue in our casework. And that's true for me. Some of the desperate phone calls I have taken, and I've been shocked by what I've heard. And it's led me to getting on the phone straight away to beg dentists nearby to see some of these constituents. One of them, an elderly resident in Wilmslow who was losing his teeth, had abscesses, he had to have his teeth removed, dentures fitted, and he could not find a dentist to go to. And the emergency dentist, there was just a recording saying no appointments, and the phone was just ringing out. He was pointed in the direction of a practice in Buxton, but then he found out that was no longer taking NHS patients, and one in Northwich, which had a 2-year waiting list. And other constituents who thought they were fortunate to have an NHS dentist found out that actually the Mobley Road Knutsford practice is no longer taking NHS patients. They are no longer registered there. Health Watch is saying, which is the independent statutory body, is saying it's the #1 issue raised with them by NHS patients, and 4 out of 5 people who contact them are saying they're having difficulty accessing dental care. And that is exactly what I'm hearing too from my constituents. The system is bad and decaying, and it has been for some time. And lockdown made things significantly worse. With dentists shut down for the first few months of the pandemic, 50 million appointments were lost, and 3,000 dentists stopped providing NHS dentistry because of the restrictions through lockdown of practice that made it financially unviable, meaning NHS dentists are disappearing at a rate of knots. 90% of practices are closed to new patients, 80% will not even accept children, and in 37% of local authorities there are no practices at all accepting new adult NHS patients. Reform needs to be radical. Tatton dentists have reached out to me and told me that the current payment system of units of dental activity introduced in 2006 by a Labour government back then has never worked, and subsequent tinkering hasn't worked either. The Minister will probably know how it works, others might not, but a check-up with x-rays may count as 1 unit. Add a filling or several, this could count for another 2 units, while providing a full set of dentures is 7. It does not pay. The formula does not work, which means that dentists lose money, particularly when treating the neediest of patients, the patients who really need their care and attention. Those figures haven't stacked up, never have, and so tweaks will not make a difference. In a nutshell, the business case is broken and a new one needs to come forward. And the NHS dentistry is not attractive. We need to make it appealing now. The number of qualified dentists, interestingly though, is at an all-time high, but the number doing NH work has fallen significantly. Last year, a British Dental Association poll that 45% of dentists in England were doing on average 25% less NH work since the start of the pandemic. The poll also showed that 75% of dentists are thinking of reducing their NHS commitment this year, with almost half considering a change of career or early retirement or turning to fully private. And Bupa, which provides both NHS and private services, recently reinforced these figures, stating that it intends to merge or sell 85 of its 450 practices across the UK because of the rising running costs and the lack of dentists willing to deliver NHS care. I mention that because that could potentially mean nearly 500,000 more patients could lose their dentist. So making the NHS dentistry appealing is probably a matter of high importance, and suggestions that was handed to me and I will put forward, and I know the Minister will be coming up with bold plans. One of them was, could we get rid of student debt for newly trained dentist? Could we remove that if they moved into the NHS provision? What extra funding will be given, and how will we remove away from those dental units? We all want this to work. It is vital this has to work, and I certainly don't want to be taking calls from desperate constituents who need urgent dental medical care.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I too extend my thanks to the Backbench Business Committee